Maybe I'll never know the love it takes to make me a happy home that's warm and safe. And maybe I'll never see how you pray for my every need and wonder what more you could do for me. But when you walk by my side, hear my stories at night, and teach me to trust in God's love. You give me a hug, maybe two, and you say I love you. Then I think you're doing enough.
Maybe you wonder if you're teaching me every good thing that I can someday be. But all that I know of faith and of kindness and love and strength, I've learned just by watching you every day. So when you stay by my side, hear my stories at night, and teach me to trust in God's love. You give me a hug, maybe two, and you say I love you. Then I think you're doing enough. Someday I'll have a home, a family, and I'll love them just as much as you love me. Then maybe you'll finally see you have given enough for me, a gift that will last through eternity. So when you stay by my side, hear my stories at night, and teach me to trust in God's love. You give me a hug, maybe two, and you say I love you. Then I think you're doing enough. And I'm blessed every step by your love.
I'm going to have them sing the last verse again, if you'll continue to play. At this time, if you're a mom, could I get you to stand? If you're a mother, would you stand? And on this Mother's Day, and can we give them a hand, please? I would like to tell you that thank you. When I first heard this song several months ago, I think it was, I sent it to Miss Amy, and I happened to be someplace that I was kind of binge listening. Somebody said, "Hey, Pastor, my mom went home to be with the Lord this past year." And somebody trying to be very kind to me sent me this song, and I was preaching out of town and having one of those kind of moments, long January, and it was like, yeah. Every step of the way, from Annie to Kristen to Joy, the last verse that Joy is going to sing, Joy just got engaged. And I cannot think of a more fitting tribute to her mom that paid that price all those years as a single mother. And so, moms, thank you. Thank you on this Mother's Day for what you have done, because those of us who interact with you and your family, we truly have been blessed. From the newborns all the way to those, Jessica, we cannot believe how big they are, how tall they are. All the way, Judy, to your kids that I have learned to love. They've become good friends, just good friends. And Elizabeth, you and your sisters, I've enjoyed because your mama paid that price and your daddy. Moms, thanks. I could go on and on and on throughout this auditorium. But moms, this is your day, and please know, all your labor has not been in vain. Can we give them a hand one more time? Thank you, moms. Thank you. And if you'll sing the last verse, and kids, give it all you have.
Someday I'll have a home, a family, and I'll love them just as much as you love me. Then maybe you'll finally see you have given enough for me, a gift that will last through eternity. So when you stay by my side, hear my stories at night, and teach me to trust in God's love. You give me a hug, maybe two, and you say I love you. Then I think you're doing enough. And I'm blessed every step by your love.
How precious was that? Amen. Let's take our hymnals. Let's stand one last time. Stretch just a little bit as the junior choir comes down. And we'll sing page number 492. The song is "The Longer I Serve Him, the Sweeter He Grows," page number 492. And we'll sing a little bit as the choir makes their way back into the auditorium. Verse 1, ready? Since I started forth, And we've made a presentation to Mrs. Kelly Gray, and we have a presentation for Pastor Gray at this time. It's not in regards to celebrating Mother's Day on your behalf, but your mother went to heaven, as you've mentioned already, and a lady in the church, Luann Spencer, is an artist, and she was inspired by a fellow friend to do a personal portrait of your mother. And Pastor, we'd like on Mother's Day to present that to you at this time. Inscribed at the bottom of the portrait is a phrase that I'll let Pastor Gray speak to that I'm sure will mean much.
First of all, thank you, Ms. Spencer. Thank you very much. And I feel like such a baby. When I woke up this morning, even last night, Kelly will tell you I was jittery. And I was not looking forward to this day. On February 11th, I instinctively picked up the phone to call my mom. And it rang, and it rang. And then it dawned on me, man, if she answers, I'm in trouble because she's in heaven. And on this Mother's Day, my siblings and I are experiencing what many of you have experienced all these years, and it's the first Mother's Day without my mom. And Miss Spencer did a beautiful job capturing my mom, and she'd get her hair done, and it would be all perfect. And then we would want to run our hands through her hair, and she was like, touch it and you die. But there's a saying on the bottom, my Lord knows the way through the wilderness. All I have to do is follow. When we were kids, my mom, we would sing in the car. She's in heaven now, so I can tell this. Back when the Statler brothers were singing Christian music, how many know what I'm talking about? And the Oak Ridge Boys started out singing. How many know what I'm talking about? And Johnny Cash was still singing hymns. I cannot believe I just said that. And Mama, you know it's true. We would sit in that back seat, and we would sing, and then we'd pick up those choruses we would learn in Sunday school. And one of them was, my Lord knows the way through the wilderness. All I have to do is follow. One particular time, we were in the back of that station wagon, and we were going through a tough time, and it was just Mom and the kids, and just circumstances. And we, even as kids, we knew something was amiss, something was wrong, and my mom would just sing, my Lord knows the way through the wilderness, and all I have to do is, and then we'd clap, follow. And unbeknownst to us, that's how she lived her life. And so on behalf of the Gray kids, Miss Spencer, thank you very much. And I know y'all loved her very much. And if you didn't know her, you have loved her through me and the stories that I tell. And so thank you very much. And so, you know, what's really scary about this is that I'm going to hang it in my office, and now she'll be watching me everywhere I go. Hey, it's one of those kind of paintings that the eyes follow you when you're across. Thank you very much, Ms. Spencer. There are 7 sayings of Christ that are found in the Gospels. In Matthew and Mark, you will find this saying, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? In Luke, you will find this, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. You'll find, verily I say unto thee, today shalt thou be with me in paradise. And then you'll find, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. Then when we get to the book of John, you find, woman, behold thy son, behold thy mother. Then he says, I thirst. And then he said, it is finished. But when you go to John chapter 19, I want you to notice there in the verses we just read, in verse number 25, if you will, it said, now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother. Please don't discount that as just, it's not a geographical phrase to let us know where Mary was at, but is indicative of how Mary spent her life. Look at verse 26, when Jesus therefore saw his mother. I find it very interesting that when you're taking this moment to understand about these two verses, Mary was there, and then Jesus saw his mother. This probably, if I could put it this way, will be the single most important Mother's Day sermon you'll ever hear. And for moms, I want to lay at your feet inspiration. And for you, the children that are here, that your moms are still living, I want to lay at your feet information. And between these two, information and inspiration, I'm praying that the bond that exists between you and your mother, if she's still living, will continue to grow. Here, you're going to find out that Mary, at different times in the life of Jesus when he was growing up, we know that Mary was the womb, Mary was the vehicle, the Virgin Mary that God used for the Christ child. But I want you to notice in Matthew 1:18, and don't turn there, let me run through this. Matthew 1:18, Mary's found with the baby in her womb, placed there by the Holy Ghost. Matthew 2:11, you find Mary with the baby Jesus in her arms. Matthew 2:14, you find that Mary taking up the baby Jesus, and now she flees into Egypt. Matthew 12:46, you'll find that Mary trying to make an appointment to see her own son. In Luke 2:19, Mary takes in all the events of the birth of Jesus, and the Bible tells us that she simply pondered all these things in her heart. Then you find that in Luke 2:41, Mary searches with a sorrowful heart for a lost Jesus, only to find him in the temple about his Father's business. In John chapter 2, Mary comes to Jesus to ask him to help with more beverage to drink at the wedding. And then in John chapter 19, you find Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus, watching all the things come to pass that were told her 3 decades before Jesus was just a newborn baby. The Mary at the birth is not the Mary at the cross. Moms, you have grown just like your children have grown. The mother that gives birth, Anna Joy, I was very privileged to have Jarrett kind of showed up at the side door, right? It's amazing to see Jarrett holding a newborn, right? Jarrett, you were just a kid not that long ago, but it was amazing. Can I tell you something? Anna Joy now, Wanger, Anna Joy will not be the same mom. There's something that happens when you walk the path with your children. That God's not only maturing your children, but guess what he's doing, Mom? He's maturing you. God brought that baby into your life to mature you, just like God gave that baby for you to help mature them. Not only did Jesus accomplish many things during his earthly ministry, but Mary traveled many miles also with him. The Mary at the foot of the cross, 33 and a half years after fleeing into Egypt to escape tyranny, is not the same Mary that picked up this baby in her arms and all of a sudden went into Egypt. At the end of Jesus' earthly life and ministry, at the height of his purpose, at the height of his sorrow, at the height of betrayal, at the height of his ugliness, if I could put it that way, for taking on the sins of mankind, at the height of when it was not at his best glory, he looked down from the cross. And guess who was there? Mary. Mary was there when the angels sang glory to God in the highest. Mary was there when all of a sudden people brought gifts. And now Mary is there when the people were like mocking, and when the people were spitting upon him, and when they tried to give him vinegar and gall. It was a narcotic on the cross that they would put him into this stupor to where he would not feel pain. He rejected this because he wanted to be totally aware of him paying for our sins. Don't you love that? But as he looked down, and on this Mother's Day, as he looked down, the Bible tells us, standing there by the cross of Jesus was his mother. And then it's amazing to me, and a couple of lessons I will pull through this, but it's amazing to me that he, through the tough time, was able to recognize his mother. Here's the title for this morning. Thank you, Mom, for being there. Thank you, Mom, for being there. I'm going to indulge, if you don't mind, I'm going to walk down memory lane. And in these past couple of months, I have talked much to my mother. When people would tell me that they talked to their mother, I would think they were crazy. I've just joined the Looney Tune bin of a society of people that you'll stop and look up and say, Mom, Mom, where are you when I need you? I remember one time I was in Los Angeles, California, and something physically went wrong with me. Well, Mom was the only one that knew this about me, and so I quickly called Mom, and she picked up. I'm in my mid-20s, and she said, Bobby, I love you, and I can give you advice. And Bobby, you need to go to the doctor. And I was like, Mom. She said, Bobby, stop being stubborn and go to the doctor. Can I tell you this morning, thank you, Mom, for being there. Thank you, Mom, that you were there, that when I didn't listen to you about the shovel, and I missed the edge of the shovel, and a fatty part of my calf was hanging out, and I walked 8 blocks back home, and I walked in, and my mom looked down at this fatty muscle hanging out of my calf, and she was a nurse, and so she picked it up, stuffed it back in, put a piece of gauze over it, and said, live with it. And now, if I die, and you cannot, somebody needs to identify me, on that right calf right there is a triangle, and you can be able to say, that's Pastor's leg. Thank you, Mom, for being there. Thank you, Mom, for being there when I came home from running away because you wouldn't let me watch the $6 Million Man. Thank you, Mom, that as a grade schooler, would walk home through these police cars going everywhere, and you saw me as I came around that corner of the house trying to get back up the pole, the downspout. I just shimmied down and couldn't make it, and my mother just shook her head and said this, your father is going to kill you. Thank you, Mom, when I didn't make class president in the 8th grade, and I thought that they loved Mark Simmons more than they loved me. Later on, I can say this, they didn't love Mark. Mark was just taller than I. I can remember losing the 8th grade vote and came home, and my mom said, how'd the elections go? And I said, I didn't make it. And my mother said, that's okay, son. You'll make it next year. Only to find out that they stopped class elections the 8th grade year. Thank you, Mom, for being there when I was carted off the football field. Coach Holland will remember this. When I was carted off the football field on my 16th birthday in Houston, Texas, after suffering a concussion, only to wake up in the hospital, and there was my mother and Joyce Kiefer staring down over me, my mom holding my helmet and my shoulder pads and going, Bobby, are you okay? Thanks, Mom, for being there. Thanks, Mom, for being there when I passed my driver's test and came running out of the DMV only to hold up that paper copy and to come to your side of the car and declare this, Mom, move over. This man's driving. Thanks, Mom, for being there when I was away from the Lord and you would pray outside my bedroom door. Thanks, Mom, for being there when your prayers were answered and I got right with God. Thanks, Mom, for being there when I was too scared to ask Dad if I could get married. And being in the car with my father, we were passing my dad on Judson Road, and my mom flashed the lights at my dad, and my dad turned around. We met in a parking lot, and my mom was like, ask him. And I'm like, he's going to say no. Ask him. And I can still remember my father pulling up, and we were this far from each other, and my mom's over here poking me in the ribs saying, ask him, Bobby, ask him. And I said, Dad, I'm in love with Kelly. Can I get married? And the only thing my father did was just say, are you sure? And I said, Dad, I love her. And he goes, yes. And then as he powered up that window, he just went, And now after 37 years of marriage, I know why he laughed. Because he knew it would be the best 37 years. Thanks, Mom, for being there. That first night in June of 1987, when I moved into my office, and I sat there with no books on my shelf, nothing on my desk, empty, and I thought I had arrived. And a knock came at the door, and my mom walked through the door, and she said, "Son, always love the Lord, always do what the Lord wants you to do, and you will be glad." Thanks, Mom, for being there to celebrate the birth of my children. Thanks, Mom, for being there when you shared that moment of a mom and a son before you took your last breath. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that we underestimate a mom that simply stands in the shadows or sits at the table or works at the kitchen sink. And I think we underestimate the fact that maybe mom can't move as quickly as she used to, and now she does move as quickly, or she makes you think she moves as quickly. She takes 5 days to recover from that one moment of moving quickly. Those times that you talked about her and you thought she wasn't listening, but boy, she could hear every word you were saying, and it took great strength not to comment on the comments. There are two spiritual truths that I want to give to the children, information, and to moms, inspiration. If you'll look at John chapter 19 and look at verse number 25. Information that I want to give children today is John 19:25. Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother and his mother's sister Mary, the wife of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene. Verse 26, when Jesus therefore saw his mother. The amazing thing about this to me is that in the middle, as I've already mentioned, the middle of the cross, there stood Jesus the Son. And Jesus the Son had that unique ability that through the toughest time, humanly speaking, God-wise, it was the joy that was set before him. And children, I'm going to tell you this, that sometimes events in your life can cause you to lose sight of your mom. There are times that you will walk through things and you'll think to yourself, if I had been on a different path, I would not be going through these tough times. Always remember what I'm about to tell you. You have been given a gift if your mom has not abandoned you at the height of your tough time. And I would say on this Mother's Day that just like Jesus recognized his mother when he was naked, just like Jesus recognized his mother when he was ugly, just like Jesus when he recognized his mother and all forsook him and fled, it does not tell us that Mary was sitting. It simply tells us that Mary stood. That is amazing to me. I have the privilege of doing graduations. I have the privilege of doing weddings. I have the privilege of interacting with families on different levels. I have the privilege of being at a hospital and at times. And I think for me, the greatest symbol for me is when you do a wedding and you're standing up here and then all of a sudden, all the bridesmaids come in and the groomsmen come in and the pastor and the groom have walked out with the best man, and then all of a sudden everybody knows what is traditional, please, that when the bride gets ready to come in, who stands to start it all off? Mama stands. And can I tell you something? The first person that is the cheerleader for you will be your mom. And I think on this Mother's Day, can you make a promise to your mom that, Mom, no matter how tough times get, I won't abandon you. Mom, no matter how tough times get, you will always be in my eye and you'll be in my focus. There are many things that I have said to my mom over the past couple of months, being my rookie year going through this kind of grief. But I can tell you that there are a lot of things I wish I would have said. There are a lot of times I tried to bear on my shoulders those tough times, but growing up and remembering Those times to where Mom could recognize I was on a cross. Mom could recognize that I had faced a tough day. The Bobby that left the house at 8 o'clock in the morning was not the Bobby that returned. And there were many times I would try to do this on my own. And could I encourage you, kids, listen, if your mom is still living, do not shut her out of your tough times. Because see, no matter how much you say, I'm fine. Could I just say this on behalf of your mother? You're the biggest liar ever. And here's why. We don't want Mom to think we can't handle it. It is that jar of pickles that she can't open, that she gives to you as a 10-year-old boy, and she says, Bobby, I can't open these. Can you open them? And you would watch her in the kitchen go, oh, and the veins would stick out. And I recognized those veins because that's how she would look when she wanted to kill me. When my dad was working for GM, we had a colonial-style house, and the kitchen, the dining room, the kitchen, the hallway, the living room, the front door, and it was just Kim and I, and Karen was just young, and Kim and I were in kindergarten, first grade, and Mama got mad at Kim and I, and she started chasing us, and we started running from her, and we were short enough that we could hop up on the couch and sit there, and Mom made about 2 laps around until she realized, I don't hear any feet. She stopped, looked at us, I'm going to kill you too. So I recognized those veins. And then she would reach up and she would say, Bobby, I just can't get it. And I would reach up and that one, I would hand it back to her. Do you know that the same Mom that would help us win victories and reset our mind, reset who we are, is the same Mom that still exists today? Here's the difference. She's wiser than you were when you were 10. She's smarter than what you thought you were. Mom has matured. And whatever shortcomings Mary had when she was frustrated and saying, we sought you sorrowing, why did you do this, was not the Mary at the cross. 18 years had matured Mary to where she said, why, where were you? And then his first miracle, she said, get it done. At the cross, she didn't even comment. Want to know why? Mom had matured. Things that I would go to my mom in my mid-20s and my late 20s and early 30s that I thought were earth-shattering, and I knew what she would say about it. I was totally shocked at her response. If I could be so transparent, Brother Metters, here we go. Stop me if I get out there on a limb. One day Kelly had angered me, and one day it was as a husband, I was like, I'm going to kill her. I stopped by Mom's house and got off UPS, and I was like, Mom, can I tell you something? My mother looked at me and said, Bob, stop it. Just because Kelly did something you don't like does not make it sinful. And I said, absolutely it does. And she said, no, it doesn't. And she took me to Ephesians chapter 5, and as an adult man married with small children, she said, Bob, do you know that your job is to love her as Christ loved the church, and you are to nourish her and cherish her? If you had listened to my father any of those times, he would tell the story about she can fix the house any way she wants to fix it. If you come home at night and she has put the couch right there in the front door, and your job is to go, oh, what a wonderful place to put a couch. She was so considerate. She knew I'd be tired, and I could just lay down. This was my mom. So can I encourage you kids today on this rainy Mother's Day? Can I just tell you that your mom, from the point of birth to the point at 12 to 30 to the cross, is not the same mom that you had way back here. Do not put your mom in a box. Do not sell your mom short. And do not think that your mom stopped maturing when you left. Moms emotional makeup is tied to her children. And there are mothers all over this world, and I speak this through the airwaves to mothers all over this world that may watch this at some point. There always are those times that you wish I would have responded differently, and I wish I would have acted differently. Grown children, give your mom a chance to make up for all the things she wished she would have done when you were younger. That's my information to you kids. Can I give you inspiration, moms? Go to Luke chapter 2 and verse number 41. Thank you, Mom, for being there. And I think that the more I look back on my mom's 70-plus years of living, it was amazing how smarter Mom got through the years. And it was because I put her in her master's program when I left the house. I gave her a doctor's degree when I was a grown child. But moms, now I want to come to you and I want to give you a purpose, if you will. There are two things I want to tell you. And look at Luke 2:41. Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year. You'll know the story, but I want to take the time to read it. Brother Metters was funny. Can I just stop? And on the way out, at the children's program, he said, "Are you still going to be done at 11:45? Only a children's pastor thinks that way, amen? I hate to tell him I'm going to be done before 11:45. Luke 2:41, now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast. And when they had fulfilled the days as they returned, the child Jesus tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew not of it. But they, supposing him to have been in the company, went a day's journey, and they sought him among their kinsfolk and acquaintance. And when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem, seeking him. And it came to pass, after 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions. I want you to pay close attention. Verse 47, and all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answered. And when they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou dealt with us? Can't you see any further than the end of your nose? And all those other mother sayings. Behold, thy father and I have sought thee sorrowing. What it should say out beside that, and he gonna kill you. And he said unto them, how is it that you sought me? Wish ye not that I must be about my father's business? And they understood not the saying which he spake. Look at verse 51. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was subject unto them. But his mother kept all these what? Sayings in her heart. Mom, I'm going to ask you to start looking for the spiritual appetite of your children. Your children are amazing children. Yesterday, Kelly and I were given a gift from Deanna and the kids, and they came over, and Blake played the cello for us, and Grayson acted as the MC for us, and Grayson would tell what the selection was, and then Blake would play the cello, and Natalie just bounced up and down on the couch with a mushroom pillow, and we sat there, and I was just sitting there going, amazing, like that's amazing. Can I tell you something? That mom and dad, you need to look for the spiritual that is coming out of your children. Yes, they are talented. Yes, they are smart. Yes, they will make the grades. But God did not give those children to you to be your source of income when you get older. Can I say that one again? They did not give those children to you for them to take care of you when you get older. God gave those children to you, as I spoke yesterday in the homeschool graduation. They are a gift, a reward from God. They are an inheritance. And I think as you are seeking them, and as they are like, what are you doing away? Everybody knows that the kids go to the back room. As long as you can hear them throwing their brothers against the wall, you're good. But you fear when there's silence. And when there's silence, it's like, oh, somebody go check on them kids because they're up to something. I will tell you that keep your eye out for the spiritual aptitude and the spiritual love for the things of God. When they found Jesus, Jesus was in the temple. Jesus was in the temple, and he was not with thieves. He was not with people that are of ill repute. You know where he was at? He was in the temple discussing the things of God. And when they said, "Why? What have you done to us?" He goes, "I don't understand. Didn't you know I was supposed to be about my Father's business?" And moms and dads, keep your eyes open. Mamas, as you're interacting with those children, keep your eyes open for that spiritual to come out. And when they come home and they say, "Hey, Sunday school was this way, and I learned this song in the choir, and I learned this," and keep your eyes open. And then the second thing I want to tell you, go to John chapter 2 and verse number 1. We now fast forward Jesus from 12. Now he is in his earthly ministry. He is 30 years of age. In John chapter 2, and look at verse number 1. Children, I will tell you this, that the information I want to leave at yours is don't walk away from mom as you get older. Keep mom involved and always recognize that your mother has grown through the years. And the second thing for mom, look for the spiritual. And then look at chapter 2, verse 1. Now he's a man, all right? So let's talk about grown children in our world. Let's talk about grown children. Mamas with grown children, they can drive you nuts. Okay? And here's why. Because we want to step in at every turn and help them raise your grandchildren. Here's the problem. Are you ready? They're not your children to raise. The hardest thing I do is step back over here with Jordan and Grace and Josh and Deanna. And the hardest thing I do, and I think they're great parents. I think they love their kids. I think that they love the Lord. And I stand back over here, and many times Kelly and I are like, we have to look at each other and But it's not that we think that they are bad parents at all. They are just not us. And after all, we are the poster child for parents. Don't you know that? But I will tell you, here is Mary. While your children are young, look for the spiritual. Look for it. Ponder in your heart the spiritual. When your children are adults, 30 years of age, look at this story. We know it. And the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. And both Jesus was called and the disciples to the marriage. This is it. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus saith unto him, they have no wine. Jesus saith unto her, woman. Now, can I just pause and say this? I would not suggest you pull a Jesus move at this moment with your mom. I tried one time and I was like, hey, woman. And my mom turned around and she said, don't call me woman. I said it was good enough for Jesus to call his mom a woman. And she said, yeah, but he ended up on a cross crucified, and I can get you there real quick. Jesus saith unto her, woman, what have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come. I love it. There is no 4.5. There is no 4.75. And yes, that's thunder. There is no 4. That's my mama going, shut up, Bobby, and stop it. There is nothing in between this. It's almost as if Jesus says, woman, what have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come. And it's almost as if his mother Mary is looking at Jesus and she goes, whatever he's getting ready to tell you, do it. And it's almost as if mama steps up and says, you get this done. I will tell you the second thing is this: use your influence. Use your influence for your kids to do good. Do not use your influence to pick apart their parenting. Do not use your influence to pick apart what you think they should or should not do. Use your influence for your children that are grown to make a difference in the world around them. Mary did not speak to the hour. She spoke to the potential. She did not speak to what was going on. She saw a need. She knew her son could meet that need. And she simply said, whatever he says to you, you do it. And I will tell you that when you and I start looking at their future and we start understanding that as a parent of a grown child, the worst thing that we can do is to pick apart what they're not doing or what they are not doing that you think they need to do. And we just need to use our influence to get them to do good. You can do this. I know you have it in you. You have always been. When my mother would say those bookends, I knew I was in trouble. When my mom would call me and she would say, Bobby, you have always been a good son. Bobby, you have always and always and always. You know what that meant? Mama's getting ready to make one of those motherly suggestions that I better listen to, because this, my friend, is Mother's Day. Thank you, Mom, for being there. And on this day, if you're a mom, can I tell you, your kids are small, listen for the spiritual. If your kids are tall and grown, use your influence to encourage them to do the good. And if your mom is still living, you may be taller than your mom. We were talking about it last night. Colton right now is taller than his gi. That's Grandma Queen. And when we started talking about last night, Bob and Sherry and Kelly and I were at the house, and Miss Queen's house, and we started talking about, you should have seen Colton. When we talked, Colton's taller than Guy. He kind of stretched up a little bit more, and he was kind of walking like this. Your influence, your words mean everything. Thanks, Mom, for being there. Moms, thank you for always showing up. Thank you for being that kind of mother. You may not think much about it, but it does make a difference. Thank you for taking the time to watch one of our services here at Emmanuel Baptist Church. And I would love to be a blessing to you. My number's at the bottom of the screen. And if you need anything, I would love to be of help any way I can. Again, thanks for watching. I hope the sermon was a blessing to you, and we will see you next time.